Good morning, one and all. Well, Christmas season of 2016 has left us. It's now, let me fix that. I'm going to take you back up a bit. There we go. The day to recognize New Year's is come and gone. And today the rush starts to get the kids back to school and to have our fun back at our desks and everything. And yeah, it's not going to be fun and excitement, but you get to, the first day back at work after the holidays. It's a little slow. Everyone's talking about what they did on the holiday. So let's get back at it. Grab your coffee, tea, hot chocolate, whatever you want, and we'll get back to our stories. Okay, I didn't want to start this off, but I saw Hydro is saying that nearly, well, let me quote CBC BC, and saying that 8,000 people were without power. Now, if we are living in a rainforest, we don't normally get snow, but we have heavy storms and heavy rain, and it seems like it's constantly going out. And people without power. So what is people to do? Or what are people to do? Hydro seems great in reporting it and saying, 8,000 people or whatever are without power because due to the storm. And, we can sit here. I know here, we never really worry because when they developed this area, all the power cables went below ground. And we have a few properties have the boxes on them. But because we're underground, we rarely have to worry about power. So why is it every big storm we have, we don't lose telephone, and they're up in the air. We don't lose gas problems. In whole, it's always electricity. Now, does that mean that BC Hydro is incapable of supplying power? And now, especially when the power is needed to heat most homes don't have a fireplace to live by. I'm lucky I have a gas fireplace and could turn it on. But there's a number of people who don't, and if they're requiring electrical heat, what are they to do? Just to go and freeze? I don't see where BC Hydro is really concerned. There's constant saying, oh, well, we're upgrading, and, they're always blowing sunshine up their skirts. But yet, people are still freezing. And they estimate 8,000. Well, that's probably 8,000 paying customers. There's families, there's seniors. And with this, people are going to turn to serious methods. And this could entail generators and bringing the generators inside, which builds up carbon monoxide. But I don't know, does Hydro need to upgrade its infrastructure? Because it seems like every year, during some winter storm, people are always losing power. And this year, it's just exaggerated by the cold and the amount of snow that's around. A lot of people can't really get out and move. I know I'm stuck pretty much in here because there's a ramp that BC Hydro is responsible for, but they always get into an argument between them and TransLink over the ramp that goes to Edmund Station. I don't care that you two have a fight going on. So it seems like BC Hydro is sitting there saying, well, we're the big crown corporation and we can do whatever we want. So what can people do? Stay in their houses and shiver, try to contact Hydro. But you know what? There is no real customer complaint. There's a phone number to report outages, but all you get is a telephone recording. You don't even get to speak to a live person. There's no one to call and report anything to Hydro. So people, you have to sit there and freeze until Hydro comes and turns on your power. The exciting thing is that if you're one of the lucky ones not lucky ones, but people who have these outages are still expected to pay for their hydro on time. It's kind of like, well, you had took this much time away from us, we're taking this much off the bill. But you know what? Hydro, being the big bad crown corporation, will be right on your butt to pay your bill. So I think we have to take a look and say, well, Hydro, what exactly are you going to be doing? You keep repairing systems, and it'd be interesting to see those 8,000 people. Is it in a geographical location? And are these the same areas that are getting hit every year? But, where do you go for that information? Oh, Hydro. So, Hydro seems to think they can do whatever they want. There were a few people who were hit with this security deposit for opening new accounts. And, it's another, well, for some people, it was another $198, which they had to pay before they would get their account started. And what does BC get from this? They get 8,000 people are without power. The windstorm earlier this year, well, it wasn't as severe, but we can even bring back the one from 2015. Power was out to people. And it always seems to be that Hydro is racing, trying to get people out onto the areas, and they probably have to load the trucks. And why? I'm sure they could come up with something that stops this from happening. a lot of people receive power from the overhead power lines. You know, the big thing that there have been controversy year after year. But I know it costs money to fix all this. And they will have to go and get another rate increase. And Hydro is having another rate increase. But I don't know if, the rate increases should be a rubber stamp deal. I think the rate increases should allow for better service. We're not necessarily getting great service. There are people out there who keep looking for ways they can save. And Hydro just keeps raising the rates. The telephone goes up. Everything seems to go up. To get from one place to another, transit goes up. And Hydro was actually started originally so we would have lower electricity, and there was even one headline that I read, and I don't know if it was Global or CBC, but they said that it's time for the Liberals to give up the mismanagement of BC Hydro because they were going to ask for another rate hike. And personally, I really question, you pay for your electricity, then you pay for a surcharge. So how much millions are they taking in by this surcharge? Oh, this is a buffer in case we have to spend more on electricity. But I bet you that goes to your bottom line. It's hard to say what Hydro actually does with the money it collects. And we need to, don't go so blindly. We need to ask Hydro what's up with every dime you guys get. Now, I sent an email into the president of Hydro and received absolutely nothing. So I put the same email, I printed it out, and I sent it off. Absolutely nothing came back. So for being a crown corporation, I don't care if it was the president answering, but it could very well be a vice president or the person in charge of that department. But when you're starting to hear nothing, you're having fights over property, and they sit in their glass tower, and it's a glass tower right here. They don't really do anything. It doesn't seem like they're helping the general public. So, think about that. And how can we get them more accountable to the people they serve? It's definitely something we need to talk about. Have a great day, or we'll be right back. Sorry. Okay, the Scandinavian country Finland has started issuing a basic living, which is nothing really to laugh about. Well, it only goes right now in a pilot project. Excuse me. And it's really only going out to 2,000 customers or citizens. And it equates to $587 a month. But should governments be subsidizing people who work and get a basic income that way? Because I can tell you, $587 is even less than a single person makes off welfare here. And I don't know how people who are on single people who can work on welfare live. You get your check, you go grocery shopping, it's gone. You have bills you have to pay. So $587 really isn't enough. Well, I know in BC it isn't, but really isn't enough across the board to subsidize people who really need money for housing. And what about the families out there? I know ideally we should all get a basic living, and then if you want more, then you should continue and work for more. But is that really going to help people? What you're going to do is you're probably going to have more people who could work, not work because they could sit around and get that check. But it would be nice to have something there for someone who needs money in order to live. Now, I know, the Republicans down in the States are going to do everything they can to, they should be working. But when you get to a job nowadays where you really don't get paid, and, while going to university is an ideal situation, a number of kids aren't cut out for university. And, are they cut at working at McDonald's, working at 7-Eleven? Even there, it used to be you could work in there and you could develop your skills and move up the ladder. Now you're not really even able to do that. So having a basic income could be a working idea in BC. However, we need to ensure that people can and should be expected to better themselves. I can tell you here in BC, for 600 and some odd dollars a month, I'm not exactly sure on what the last amounts are, but what they are saying is that if you're on welfare and you're single, you can only get 600 and some odd dollars a month. Well, in Vancouver, that's really not even enough to live off. Now, they brought out where they said, well, you can either get $75 or a bus pass. I'm lucky. I don't get that much from now, even when you thought about Nico's here. Gone are the days now where you would go get a job, help pay for your education, and get back to work. Well, face it, there's no high-paying jobs really left. People have to work at menial jobs, and they pretty well have to keep working at their menial jobs. There's no place to get ahead. And, it used to be, well, I know, I could get a job in my father's company. But now, all these companies, because other people have ruined it, they have no nepotism laws, and, there's no more husband and wives can bring in their teenage sons or daughters to work. But what what's to expect of our young people who are trying to get ahead and have a bright future? Sure, go to school, but now it's getting even more impossible for them to exceed. And what happens to the individual who's trying to pay for their own education? They have to be a superstar, and the scholarships are getting less and less, and they're getting smaller and smaller because most of them want to keep helping out other people. So, a basic income. You thought I forgot about what I started. The basic income idea may have to be something that, I don't know, we look at till you're 20, I don't know, 25, 30 years old. Because I think we're losing something in our youth when, if they want to go to school, they should be able to. But if they can't, well, then, people are going to be out there starving. They're going to be a drain on our welfare system. And it's sort of like once you're brought up in welfare, it's really hard to get off of it. And because the whole work ethic, I know a lot of my work ethic came from my parents. And I would see them get up and go to work every day. And for the years I was able to work, I was out there, getting up there, going in early, making sure my work was done, my work area was clean. But nowadays, I hate to say it, a lot of places don't really look at what you do. They look at the amount of tenure. So, I don't know, the scum kind of always rises to the top. And yes, there's some great supervisors out there. And the people who come and see me every day or night, their supervisor is great. And I've met her, and she always seems to be in good humor. She can't always give them the news they want, but she's always a very positive person. So, gone are the days where, people would just continually, oh, well, I'm going to work at my father's job. Unless nowadays your father owns the company, that's not true. And, there's always these people who think luxury is the answer. Well, if you're born into luxury, then that's great. But there are a number of British Columbians who are trying to get ahead in our country, and they find roadblock after roadblock. Trying to save money to go to university to better themselves so they can get a better job is really waning down. So giving them help in form of a guaranteed income could only help regain what they've lost. And I think people need to know that while they should still get out there and work, that not everything is given to you free, but basic incomes should allow people to work, to develop, and I don't think of it necessarily as a handout. I think there's got to be rules on it, but I don't think, here, have a check every month. But if they're proving themselves, if they're out either going to school or they're out doing a job that could be menial in nature, a lot of those, sorry, I had an itch on the back. A lot of those menial jobs are twice as worse than anything you probably did as a child. There's times where, well, it's not so much anymore, but when I worked at a job where I was the only person in the store after 11 o'clock at night. Till 7 in the morning, I was the only person there. And, sometimes it was scary. We'd have BB guns shot at the windows, and it was always difficult, but you did what you had to do. And I actually ended up spending 18 years with that company. And I think we have to help our kids succeed. So I think, Finland's trying this program, and I think it could really show up that things like this can work. I think a basic income, I don't know, for under 30, or, people are showing that they're going to school, that they're doing an education, may be the answer. Or they're working at a menial job. Something to think about. There is a story CBC's reporting. Sorry, I'll sit back. Something dropped here. Oh, it's a light. Where a 4-month-old puppy wakes up owner during an apartment fire. Now, this 4-year-old puppy, Leo, wakes up his owner, during an apartment fire, thus saving him. So, they always say that if you have a dog, you lead a longer life. Well, I think Neo proved that. And here, come here, Nico. See, there's Nico. Nico is my service dog. And earlier this year, I think it was January 18th, the day I left to go get Nico, a new law came into effect in British Columbia. And that being, just one sec here, where you had to register your service dog. And I did. And if you have a service dog and you have registered, you should have an ID like this. And what does that ID do? Well, it tells the owners of a restaurant that you can go in and you can bring your dog in with you. Now, the purpose of this law... Come here, Nico. Come on. the purpose of this law was pretty well because a number of people were buying vests, and you can go online and you can find these vests, and for $150 you can get a vest and you can go take your dog anywhere. But does this really hurt people who really need service dogs? Of course it does. People are looking, oh, well, if I put on this vest, I don't have to pay the $150. My dog can fly up in the cabin with me. And people like myself or like others who need a dog won't have these rights. Nico is part of my being. Wherever I go, Nico goes. Unless I go into like the operating room or something. Nico has a right that a lot of other dogs don't. And people are trying to imitate that there's dogs, the service dogs, so they can go wherever they want. They have to take little Poochie with them. Now, growing up, before I ever thought of a service dog, I always knew that dogs weren't allowed in restaurants, the grocery store, any kind of store except for, the local pet store. But people feel, again, that they have a basic right. And I don't think there would be such an outpouring on this subject if service dogs, these imitation service dogs, behave themselves like service dogs. But it's obvious they don't. And what happens is service dogs get, they can go anywhere because they're well behaved. Imitations, they sort of whine, they sort of act up. Now you saw Nico jump up here. Now that was telling me I had a high blood sugar, but I knew I was having a high blood sugar, and during the takes here, I went and had a shot. So he's reacting that, yes, I am having a high blood sugar now. There are dogs that, seeing eye dogs, that need to go into any building that their owners go in as a guide. And service dogs are trained. They do a specific service for the owners. Now, we would all love a cute little dog or, just to sort of pet. Now, I know down in the States, there are two questions you can ask. You can ask, is your dog a service dog? And does your dog, or what actions or what does your dog do to help you? Sounds like an easy answer. But on the flip side, down in the States, they're even harder on their service dogs. And I don't mean the people that own them. The people who own them, keep up the training, keep up the actions for their dog. But there is so many people who don't. And they just go buy this vest. And I know I was on another car, SkyTrain with a dog who was definitely not a service dog. And the minute Nico got on, he started yapping, and eventually he broke away from this dog and came and tried to pick a fight. Now, this dog was a small dog, but still, service dogs should not act like that. And, the attendants got on the SkyTrain, and it was pretty well, he did what he did, what did he do, and sorts of thing. And the SkyTrain attendant said, checked what this person had for ID or whatever, and asked them to leave. Well, they said, well, if we have to leave, they have to leave. And they came and talked to me saying, well, that person says that you've got to leave. And no, I said, no, this dog is part of me. And I pulled out the card and I showed the card to the attendant. The attendant was fine with that. And partly because other people in the train said, well, this dog attacked this. And Nico really didn't do anything. He just kind of looked and turned the other way, where this dog was trying to jump up on him. So, do service people hurt everyone? Well, they do, in that, they make it harder for other people to get the help that they need. And just because you can't do without your little Fido, I think a number of people feel that their dog should go wherever they want. And because they spent the money and had the fraudulent dog, well, they don't see the hours of work that went into training this dog. They don't see that a dog takes its time, that follows or is right by my side. And, well, you saw him react tonight. So, fake service dogs may have a place as emotional dogs, but they are not a guide dog. They are not a service dog and should never be classified as such. So, if you're a business owner, I would suggest you contact the security branch of the BC government and find out how you can tell if a dog is a service dog or not. Now, if a service dog goes pee in your business, well, rightfully so, they should be questioned to leave. But I think we all have to wonder, and if a service dog comes into your establishment, you can have a right to ask for their identification. And for me, as a owner and I guess now trainer of a service dog, I think it's rightfully so that if someone asks, that we give them the documentation, that little card I showed you earlier. Now the next thing you know, somebody will end up selling these ID cards. Well, I have one of the old ones because I think March 4th I signed up. Now they have a newer one. So that's why I wasn't too concerned. And, next time we apply in 2018, we'll get the new card. But I think we all have to be concerned about people mislabeling their dogs as service dogs, and it has now become a criminal offense. And that goes right across most of the western United States and western Canada. BC and Alberta have cards, and I'm sure that's going to be coming future. And I don't know, maybe it's going to be eventually a card that you swipe into a credit card reader or whatever, and it'll go and it'll say approved or disapproved. And if they're going to tighten up the restrictions on the dog owners, that's ridiculous. I'm sorry. We are lucky enough we don't have to pay for registration. So people who say, well, I can't afford that money, are lying. I got back here February 5th and got settled again, and we got used to our routine here. And then I applied. You go, you fill out the application, you mail it in with your certificate, or if you think your pup or your dog or can be a service dog, you have to contact the Justice Institute. I'm not sure what level. And they can be tested. And if they pass that test, then they can rightfully wear a service dog vest. Now in BC, they can only be dogs or cats. In the United States, any carrier can, there's service lizards, but a lot of them are more comfort. A guide dog would be someone who guides. A service animal offers a specific service for that individual. And I'm sorry, but I need Fifi to be a comfort. I'm sorry, that doesn't wash. So, we need to be more aware of what the laws actually are and who can rightfully come into your establishment and say, oh, he's a service dog. Because, it's just a joke. I can remember there was always a lady who tried to bring in her dog when I was with Save On Foods. And she would come in and say, oh, yes, he's a service dog. Well, what I know now, it was in sort of a little case, and this wasn't a service dog. Something to really think about. We'll be right back with closing. Okay, we're going to make this short and sweet, I guess, hopefully. We had a few good topics today, and we're going to post them. But I want you all out there who have to get back into work, whether you're going back to school or you're working, you need to be aware. You need to make sure that you are safe, especially out there in these wintry conditions. And don't be a fool. Take your time. Leave early for work tomorrow. We don't know what the conditions of the road. It's supposed to get below zero again. So be safe. Have a great day. We'll be back tomorrow.